getting it done. For them, only America's most dependable truck will do. In every Chevy truck, like every Chevy driver, dependability comes standard.
Nice going, Lou. Nothing like a little confidence boost to help ease you back into the dating scene. Of course, that also includes having a smile you feel good about. Fortunately, Aspen Dental specializes in dentures and implants made just for you, with affordable options and flexible ways to pay. And now there's $0 down plus 0 interest if paid in full in 18 months. Helping our patients put their best smile forward. It's one more way. Aspen Dental is in your corner.
I have an important question.
Are you hungry?
I'm hungry.
Perfect.
11 generations ago, one of my ancestors left Spain for the New World and a new life. 400 years later, I'm back.
I'm so excited. Hola, familia.
This is cuisine at a different level.
It is the best place to be a chef.
Oh my God. We have found Spain.
Evil Uncle Girl. Spain returns June 1st on CNN.
Tonight, it's official. The Pentagon has announced that it has accepted a Boeing 747 from Qatar. And the DoD says that President Trump will use it once it's upgraded with proper security measures. You'll remember that Republicans and Democrats alike raised legal and ethical concerns about this gift. But after days of downplaying the criticism, it still appears to be a sore spot for the president.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One. What are you talking about?
You know, you gotta get out of here. What does this have to do with the Qatari jet? So why did they give us a plane in the United States Air Force? That's what that idiot talked about. After viewing a thing where thousands of people are dead.
I'm sorry, I don't have a plane.
I wish you did. Okay. I would take, if your country offered the United States Air Force a plane, I would take it.
Why is he so upset about a question about a plane that he accepted?
He's salty. He knows he's wrong. He knows he's breaking the law. It's the law, right? The monument law.
It was.
Was until now.
It doesn't look good.
That you shouldn't take gifts from foreign countries.
Is there a law against the Air
law.
Force taking this plane?
Okay. Well, we'll find out whether or not the Air Force is taking the plane, paying for the plane, being gifted the plane. I also think it's very questionable whether he will actually be on this plane.
It says it's going to take a long time, like 2027 or 2029 maybe, and $1 billion to retrofit the plane to be an Air Force One in the sky, and Boeing's already working on 2 of them. The New York Times said that quoted an expert who tried to sell the plane, failed at selling it, saying you'd be better off just buying a new one. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And you would save more money by buying 2 new planes than trying to retrofit his old plane that he couldn't sell for 5 years to turn it into the Situation Room in the sky.
But he's totally bugged by pouring up that way. It does sound a little bit like Mobile's plane.
We're totally getting scammed.
The real concern to me is, Boeing, you cannot meet the demands of protecting the president. They were supposed to have planes built, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, Addy. They're still behind, and it's crazy because it's going to take 4 or 5 years to retrofit this plane, and Boeing may finally, at that point, be ready to deliver the new Air Force Ones to the new president.
The best solution is this.
The best solution to me is to figure out what's going on with Boeing and try to reform their process. It shouldn't take this long.
Okay, that's not happening. There's no talk of reforming Boeing. Why is the president?
Should be.
I agree.
We're getting a lot of tax money.
Listen, I think that the biggest problem with Boeing is not what's going on with Air Force One. It's the safety of their planes writ large.
I think it's a problem.
But this president, he was very sensitive. He attacked the reporter in the Oval Office multiple times. Why? When, it's either above board or it's not. He seems very sensitive about it.
Well, I think he was having a meeting with another head of state. They were discussing all kinds of other issues, and our relationship was saying, he gets asked this question, so it agitated him. Look, all I can do is read the statement that the military put out. We'll work to ensure proper security measures and functional mission requirements are considered for an aircraft used to transport the President of the United States. I have no idea how long that will take. I suspect it'll take quite some time. I don't know if he'll ever step foot on this plane. I really have no idea. But I do trust the military to make sure that the president never gets on a plane that he should not get on.
But it's such a waste of money, though. If it's going to cost $1 billion to make an old plane.
Is it a waste of money to pay Boeing something they can't deliver?
It's actually cheaper to buy 2 new planes than to retrofit this plane.
But we don't have them. That's the
They're
problem.
working on them. Apparently, they're going to be done.
This plane either.
We should give them more.
I think
This plane is like 4 or 5 years.
And it also evokes for me the endless parlor game, which is if Obama had taken a plane
If Obama
from
had
a
taken a
Middle
tan
Eastern
suit.
from a Middle Eastern government, exactly what would he say?
What would you say?
I mean, it probably would have been a big scandal.
Execution.
I mean, yeah. Well, I think if Biden took a plane, it would be a huge scandal, too. I think any president does.
Some of this is because Trump, I mean, he said this, he doesn't think Air Force One is opulent enough for
It's old.
Okay, no. Yeah, it is old. But he does not think it is opulent enough for the presidency, which is quite the opposite of what most American presidents want to give off about
Most of
office,
them are
right?
billionaires, and there's a bit of a difference from his personal life to being president.
He also is trying to make the Oval Office very gilded. Every time you look in there, it's like more gold. You know that?
But that's not the most awesome plane in the world. We are the United States of Great America. We should have the most awesome plane.
Also, the Boeing
was the most
I think the requirement for Air Force
Being
One
able to afford living is the most important priority. Should the president have an
the most important. We should have the
Part of Air Force One be how secure it is,
100%.
rather than how opulent it
And the
is.
DOD is going to make sure whatever plane he's on is the most secure. But I'm just telling you, the United States ought to have. We ought to have the best everything. Why do we have to have like the crappiest plane? Let's get a good plane.
That's exactly what they're doing, though, with this old plane. They're trying to make it like nuclear protected in the air, so if anything happens, like it takes so much to make a plane that is worthy of a president, a floating White House.
Just ask Boeing. I mean, look how long it's taking with this.
This is absurd.
So you
Yeah,
don't
it is.
think there's a national security concern with this?
I don't have any concerns that the military could take this thing apart and make it functional. I don't have any idea how long that would take. I suspect quite
Do you like taking it to the
Yes, $400 million.
Everyone, thank you very much. Coming up, a Homeland Security agent who raided the home of Sean Diddy Combs testified today in court. Laura Coates was at that trial, and she has all of the details in the special Laura Coates Live. That's right after this.
Well, with American military right now, lying over the state of Sinaloa, looking for any signs of cartel activity. They're showing us what they've just discovered. Pretty sizable synthetic drug lab. Our contact here on the ground has managed to secure a meeting with a member of the cartel. People are dying on a daily basis. Children are afraid to go to school. Do you have any sense of remorse over your role and your involvement in this group?
I'm into comedy. I'm also into flambeing. What I'm not into is heartburn. That's why I take Voquezna. Here in Keenan's stomach, Voquezna can kick some acid and relieve heartburn related to non-erosive GERD. Voquezna is the first and only FDA-approved treatment of its kind. And it heals erosive esophagitis, known as erosive GERD. Ooh la la. 93% of adults with erosive GERD were healed by 2 months. Of those healed, 79% stayed healed. Plus, Voquezna can provide heartburn-free days and nights. Other serious stomach conditions may exist. Don't take if allergic to Voquezna or while on rilpivirine. Serious allergic reactions include trouble breathing, rash, itching, and swelling of face, lips, tongue, or throat. Serious side effects may include kidney problems, intestinal infection, fractures, life-threatening skin reactions, low B12 or magnesium levels, and stomach growths. Tell your doctor about your medical conditions, medications, and if you have diarrhea, persistent stomach pain or fever, decreased your bloody urine, seizures, dizziness, irregular heartbeat, jitteriness, chills, shortness of breath, muscle aches or weakness, spasms of hands, feet, or voice. Voquezna can help kick some acid, and so can you. Ask your doctor about Voquezna.
When it comes to clogged gutters, you might say I've seen it all. Leaves, spinners, wiffle balls, you name it. Because any gutter open to the elements is going to gather debris and clog over time. And that can cause all kinds of problems. But get leaf filtered and the problem's solved.
Leaf Filter's patented technology keeps debris out of your gutters for the life of your home.
It's dependable, proven, tested. Like me.
So when experience matters, get Leaf Filter. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Hi, how are you?
Get 2.9% APR financing or a $2,000 customer bonus in the new 2025 Atlas.
We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize. No priorities. Like, yes.
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
We've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-done list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
Like getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy boy, long live the lazy. No one does you like you. A true original. It may be that one and only laugh of yours. That face you make. Yes, that's the one. Or the way you share your passions with the world. You're the one and only you. And speaking of, there's the one and only Botox Cosmetic, the only product of its kind FDA approved for over 20 years. The original prescription treatment for moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines. Botox Cosmetic effects may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox Cosmetic if you have skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, or swelling. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve condition, and medications including botulinum toxins, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. Learn more at BotoxCosmetic.com. All the news, all on Laura Coates Live, next on CNN.
Closed captioning brought to you by Rue La La. Iconic brands up to 70% off retail at... Closed captioning brought to you by Rue La La. Iconic brands up to 70% off retail at RueLaLa.com.
At Rue La La, you never pay full price. Seize the deals on top movies before they're gone. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
A battle over expert testimony, the most contentious yet, as the jury and now the world sees brand new photographic evidence against Sean Diddy Combs. Tonight, on a special edition of Laura Coates Live, Diddy on trial. Good evening and welcome. I'm Laura Coates right here in New York City tonight, where I was inside court for day 8 of Diddy's trial. And today we saw fireworks over the prosecution's first expert witness. Just a moment, my team of legal experts and court insiders will take us through all of it and how the jury may be piecing together an even bigger picture from what we've already heard. And there's a lot to get through. The prosecution and the defense, they sparred over the testimony of a forensic psychologist. Prosecutors also released dozens of new photos seen by the jury, revealing what police seized in the raid on Diddy's Miami Beach mansion. And the judge signed an immunity order to force Diddy's former executive assistant to testify. But here's the big question tonight. Will the jury, the actual jury, connect the dots between the explanation of a trauma bond and the world that Cassie Ventura said that she lived in? The prosecution called psychologist Dawn Hughes to explain why Cassie may have stayed in an abusive relationship with Diddy for years. The judge had already ruled that she could not talk about coercive control, but she could discuss more broadly why victims may choose to stay in violent relationships or feel like they could not leave them. Hughes testified, quote, "When you're getting unpredictable abuse and unpredictable love, that creates this intermittent cycle. It's like a slot machine." She went on to say, you keep going back because you want that good feeling. They want that good partner that they fell in love with, and that becomes an immense trauma bond. And the defense repeatedly pointed out how Hughes had not reviewed any evidence in this case, more on that in a moment. But on redirect, the prosecutor finished with what you might call a kind of a legal mic drop. She asked Hughes if she'd been retained broadly by defense attorneys. She said, yes, of course. The prosecutor then asked, in fact, have you previously been retained by any of the defendant's attorneys here in this case? She responded, yes, I have. Now, she wasn't saying that it was actually this matter with Sean Diddy Combs. He later said that Steele, in a different case, chose not to use Hughes as a witness in that case that he was on at the time. And the client that he was dealing with was a victim of domestic violence himself. Now, that testimony will be a lot for the jury to unpack and try to pull apart. So will all the evidence taken from Diddy's mansion in Miami Beach just last year. Police seized parts of AR-15s. Some had their serial numbers scratched off. They found a loaded handgun. They were high heels, a lot of them. Also bottles and bottles of Astroglide and baby oil and lubricant. And police discovered an assortment of drugs, including ketamine, cocaine, and MDMA. The special agent in charge of that raid testified about all of it, including 6 people on the property who were briefly with the handguns. And the last witness of the day was Diddy's former executive assistant, George Kaplan, and he tried to plead the fifth, protect against self-incrimination, but the judge, by granting him immunity, paved the way for him to actually go on the stand. And once he got on the stand, he testified about getting his thoughts drugs at times. He testified about setting up and cleaning up Diddy's hotel rooms. He stocked them with clothing and candles and liquor and baby oil. He bought some of these room supplies, he said, with his corporate credit card and cleaned up the rooms after Diddy left before the maid service came in. Now, why do that? Why do it before the maid service comes in? Well, because Kaplan put it this way. Protecting him and protecting his public image was very important, and that was something I was very keen on doing. But Kaplan testified that Kaplan quit after seeing Diddy abuse her. Now, we haven't heard that from him yet, but he is back on the stand again. And you know who else prosecutors plan to call? Rapper Big Petty. Recall that Kathy testified that she was once in a relationship with him, and that sent Diddy spiraling into a jealous rage. Back to this tonight, CNN's Elizabeth Wagmeister, who witnessed all the testimony in court with me today, and following along so closely, talk to me about this forensic and clinical psychologist. I mean, it was very pivotal for her to come in and try to explain this looming question of why might someone say, because Cassie's credibility might be questioned for those who don't understand why.
This was a pivotal witness for the prosecution because these sex crimes, they can be very confusing for a jury. There's a lot of gray area. This is not black and white. So she came on to testify to some of the behaviors that are common among all child victims, whether that is a victim of violence, sexual abuse, even of something totally unrelated to this. And that was key for the prosecution because she said, I am not related to this trial. I have not met with anyone. I have not met with the defendant, Holmes. I have not met with any of the government's witnesses, such as Cassie. So she came into this, what she said, as a blind witness, but she did corroborate what Cassie and some other witnesses have said. For instance, there was one part that really stuck out to me, Laura, when I was sitting there in the courthouse. She said that, quote, it may be curling up in a ball on the floor. That was something that she explained for a common behavior that could be seen by a victim of domestic violence. Basically saying they may curl up on a ball on the floor so that they basically stop the violence that is happening to them. Now, why this stood out to me is because I remembered that this was very similar to what Cassie testified to what we saw in the video that our team at CNN broke, that hotel surveillance video when she curled up in the fetal position. And we went back to some other testimony. Richard, you remember her, she said about Cassie, quote, she went into the fetal position. The security guard, Israel Flores from the hotel, said, and Carrie Jordan, who was Cassie's best friend and testified to corroborate her account, she said, quote, she was like a loose fetal position. So I do wonder if the jury connected those dots of this psychologist to say, even though she's not talking about Cassie, that sounds familiar. And maybe now I understand more some of the behaviors of Cassie.
And there were a lot of objections, almost as if her vocabulary was so precious because of those details, that the defense did not want that jigsaw puzzle to come into full view if they were relating to that. There was also moments, though, when the psychologist, talked about the coping mechanisms that are used and how one decides to tell about the abuse, and also about the returning to the relationship. Describe to me a little bit about the way in which she talked about a domestic abuse victim not feeling as though they could escape, even if they wanted to.
Yeah, so she said that a lot of domestic violence victims, they can feel trapped in the relationship. That is the word that she used. She said that these relationships often begin with love, so these victims can want that love. They are yearning for that. So that could be one reason why they come back. Another reason is financials. She explained that oftentimes the abuser will control all the finances in a relationship, and that is their way to control the victim. This was another aha moment for me, a light bulb moment where I said, that's what Cassie testified to. Looking down at my notes from court, Cassie said that Diddy controlled her rent, her cars, her clothing, her travel, and even cash. So again, I wonder if the jury said, that sounds familiar.
A lot more to unpack, including that next witness, George Tappan, will be back on the stand tomorrow, and his sister will unpack that. I want to talk to our great legal minds as well, so follow me over to the table because we've got some really great conversations ahead. We have got defense attorney Joey Jackson, who is with us today. Also, former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, where, of course, this trial is taking place, Jennifer Rogers, and defense attorney, of course, Stacey Schneider is here as well. All right, we got a lot to unpack. Let's get right into it. I want to begin with you, Jennifer. This is your old office as well. You've heard from the expert witness, John Hughes, this psychologist who was testified as a blind expert, meaning she did not know Diddy, didn't know Cassie Ventura, and she was trying to paint a picture in general terms. How does this play for a jury? Because I got to tell you, there were so many objections today, keeping her on the tiniest of leashes. She couldn't get into many things. It had to be general.
Yeah, I think it's really powerful. I mean, I think the reason you saw so many objections is because the defense realized that the jury was making those connections that this was talking about, right? They're saying, credit cards, rent, financial control. Yeah, we've heard all of that from Cassie Ventura. So there's no question it's very helpful for the government's case, harmful to the defense's case. I was a little surprised to see it, to be honest. I haven't seen that kind of testimony come in very often. So
why are you surprised? Because they even let it in?
Exactly. I think it's really, really uncommon. I haven't seen anything like it before. I mean, an expert usually does that case, right? Looks at the documents in your case, if necessary, interviews the witnesses in your case to draw on and to then...
But there are subject matter experts, right, who could maybe talk about more broadly. But you're saying what was odd was that she had not reviewed, had not talked to these people. And what's the intimation? That by failing to do so, she was overgeneralizing and therefore not having credibility? Because that's what the defense wants to go with.
Yeah, so this is a big deal. And to Jen's point, if I'm the judge, I don't allow it at all. Now, it's a game changer. Why? Because I think inquiring minds want to know, right, what was the coercion? If this is about sex trafficking and not a freaky relationship, it's about the fact that I coerced you to do this.
But
not
you can talk about coercion.
Yes, I get it. But inferences are drawn. If you're controlling everything, if you're behaving as a victim in this way, if you feel in love with someone and you have this mold of a person, right, who, if you're a victim of this violence, you tend to act this way, what is the inference that's going to be made, right? A duck by any name is a duck. And so the reality is what does the defense have to rely on? The defense has to rely on the fact that you did not interview this specific witness. Not every witness is the same. We don't live in a cookie-cutter society. You never met, right, a defendant who you testified for. You're always testifying for the victims. You're a hired gun in this particular situation. You've met with the prosecutors multiple times, and you've coordinated your testimony such that those dots could be connected. That's the defense argument. But the fact that she testified, very powerful for the prosecution, and if the jury draws those inferences of coercion, there is problems in Diddy land.
But Stacey, the prosecution, they wanted her there. Yes. Obviously. They wanted to make the case that she was this blind expert. Yes, she's getting paid. They said $600 an hour, $6,000 a day, which on the grand scheme of things for expert testimony is on the lower end, perhaps, and some of these very, very high-profile cases or private matters more broadly, where the government's not the one footing the bill. But there is a pro of having her as a blind expert. It takes a little bit of the sting out of maybe bias that I know this case, I need my findings to be parroted in the courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the prosecution used this witness to backdoor bolstering Cassie's credibility, and it wasn't really needed. I mean, Joey had some good points about it, but I feel like we had 4 days of a pregnant Cassie Ventura on the stand. She was probably the most sympathetic witness on the planet, describing what she endured in what she alleged to have endured in that 10-year relationship. And then to come in and bring this general expert who is paid. And by the way, the defense brought out that this particular expert trains victim advocates to testify in courtrooms.
Meaning she's a professional witness, and it's a little bit artificial. I'm not sure that strategy will go over with the jury because, again, the prosecution is focusing on the domestic violence end of the case, and that's sympathetic, and it's horrible, and everybody's moved by that. But again, going back to what we've been saying all along, all the attorneys from the beginning of this case, this is about can the government prove racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. And the more that the government hones in on domestic violence and all the attributes of victims of domestic violence, they take a little bit away from their case. And that's my opinion, looking at it from the defense perspective.
Well, let's talk about the racketeering in RICO, because they're going to have to make those jumps and connect the dots about this inner circle, the enterprise. And they brought on George Kaplan, who we were in the courtroom. He did not want to be there. Let me just tell you. He wasn't like, hey, pick me, I'm glad to be here. He was a little bit resigned. He was answering questions, but he was also there because he was granted immunity. He had already taken the fifth. He did not want to incriminate himself. But having him on to talk about his role, his duties as an assistant, setting up his hotel room, using corporate credit cards to be able to purchase some of these items, does that move needle for you at all?
Here's what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for another voluntary willing member of this conspiracy to come in. And this guy, so far, hasn't come in. Maybe he does tomorrow. Maybe he says, yeah, I knew what we were doing. I knew we had an illegal object. I knew the object was all of these sex parties and this illegal stuff. But he hasn't said that yet. And you cannot be a conspiracy of one. So at some point, they don't have to have this person on the stand, but they have to identify at least a theoretical someone with whom Diddy has conspired, and that's what I'm looking for. Even without having to charge the other person, they
Right.
can make that.
But on the stand today, because we were watching, he was describing the things that corroborated testimony that we heard. Everyone knew by the time he got to the stand. And you mentioned baby oil, everyone went, this is the job he was setting up. Whether he knew that or not.
Right, and I think for the jury, at this point, they have heard the word baby oil more times than anybody who can. So there's two schools of thought, right? Are they just going to be desensitized to Diddy's alleged habits, or is this really painting a picture of what Diddy's world was? Now, of course, having baby oil is not illegal, but if that baby oil is a supply that's necessary for the freak off that he coerced women like into, and if the jury believes that, that's the key. So I think the prosecution, it appears from the both being, in the courtroom every single day, they keep honing in on this pattern. I think they're trying to show no matter where he was, no matter who he was with, this is what he was doing. But again, it is a lot of the same.
And they had to prove, of course, that the enterprise, if there was one, was helping him to do that. We have a lot more to unpack, more than baby oil. Stand by, everyone. There's so much more to get to, including the details of that dramatic raid on Diddy's Miami Beach mansion, a federal agent describing it for the first time, revealing what they uncovered inside, how the operation was orchestrated, and what may have triggered the investigation in the first place. Washington, D.C., where there has been a deadly shooting near the FBI field office. Sources tell us that 2 people were killed, and at least one of them is believed to be connected to the Israeli embassy. These are pictures near the shooting scene right now. You can see there's a heavy police presence there. Those would only say they are investigating the shooting. Israel's ambassador to the UN took to Twitter to call it
Evil authorities searching for Spain returns to first on CNN. Still have moderate to severe ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease symptoms after taking a medication like Humira or Remicade? But then they check the Rinvoq. Hold up the Stanley Bell.
When symptoms start to take control, I got rapid relief with Rinvoq. Check.
Players try to slow me down. I got lasting remission with Rinvoq. Check. And maybe we're in remission even at nearly 2 years.
And Rinvoq helps visibly reduce damage of the intestinal lining. Check.
Rapid symptom relief. Lasting remission.
And visibly reduce damage. Check.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. Tell your doctor if you've had these events: infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant or planned. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Put UC and Crohn's in check and keep them there with Rinvoq. Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq.
Unplug and unlock. Road trips on easy mode. And a really big touchscreen for the biggest jams. And qualify for up to $7,500 in tax credit with the Equinox EV. Unlock the tech and the value with the 2025 Equinox EV, America's most affordable over 315-mile range EV. And Chevrolet, together let's drive.
This is our call to inaction, to answer the call of the recliner.
We're getting takeout because we've been out all day long.
It's the Lazy Boy Memorial Day sale. Great deals on your new favorite lazy spots, plus 0% interest for 48 months. We will take a load off by loading up on snacks. Hurry in. Memorial Day sale going on now. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
When I was diagnosed with HIV, I didn't know who I would be.
But here I am, being me.
Keep being you and ask your healthcare provider about the #1 prescribed HIV treatment, Biktarvy.
Biktarvy is a complete one-pill, once-a-day treatment used for HIV in many people, whether you're 18 or 80. With one small pill, Biktarvy fights HIV to help you get to undetectable and stay there, whether you're just starting or replacing your current treatment. Research shows that taking HIV treatment as prescribed and getting to and staying undetectable prevents transmitting HIV through sex. Serious side effects can occur, including kidney problems and kidney failure. Rare, life-threatening side effects include a buildup of lactic acid and liver problems. Don't take Biktarvy if you take dofetamide or rifampin. Tell your healthcare provider about all the medicines and supplements you take. If you are pregnant or breastfeeding or have kidney or liver problems. If you have hepatitis B, don't stop taking Biktarvy without talking to your healthcare provider. Common side effects were diarrhea, nausea, and headache.
No matter where life takes you, Biktarvy can go with you. Talk to your healthcare provider today.
This is called Rocket Money. Well, what the heck is that? Some space thing? It's a money thing. Rocket Money is an app that puts all your accounts and subscriptions in one place.
Is that why my grandson's always glued to his phone, looking at all his subscriptions?
That and some other things. This Rocket Money would actually do something for that too.
How?
It shows you all the subscriptions you're paying for, and then you can cancel them right in the app.
Everybody download Spaceship Bank.
Rocket Money.
Introducing Wegovy through Hers. Ready to lose up to 20% of your body weight or more? Through Hers, this FDA-approved treatment for weight loss is available for 50% off. Now you can feel confident about losing weight and keeping it off, all at an affordable price. Hers offers access to personalized weight loss treatment plans that promote sustained long-term weight loss and improve your overall health. Get weight loss results that last with Wegovy through Hers. Start today at forhers.com.
On the next episode of My Happy Place, cheers to New Orleans. Tavia Spencer finds comfort in New Orleans. The city literally has everything. There's no other place like it. My Happy Place with Tavia Spencer. This is Sunday, June 1st on CNN.
We're back with the breaking news out of Washington, D.C. A deadly shooting being investigated right now, where we're told 2 people were shot and killed, and at least one of them is believed to be connected to the Israeli embassy. CNN's chief law enforcement intelligence analyst, John Miller, is joining us right now. This is coming in fast and furious. What do you know?
So, first of all, everything we're going to be reporting is preliminary because, as you know from our own experience, this information may change. But what we've been told by law enforcement sources is that this was an event at a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C., at 3rd and F Northwest, that the crowd was leaving the event, apparently, that an individual opened fire. We are told that the Israeli diplomat was hit, another one was hit, so you have at least 2 people shot, you have 3 other people injured, those numbers can shift. We are told there are fatalities, at least 1, and we are told that the gunman, according to witnesses, fled on a motorcycle. So, if you take what we have, sketchy as it is, it paints a picture of something that appears to be targeted. It was at an event at the Jewish Museum. Appears to be planned in advance. You have a gunman who witnesses say fled on a motorcycle. And obviously, this is a major event in terms of this has drawn in the FBI, elements of the Secret Service, obviously the Washington, D.C. Metro Police, and a major investigation unfolding right now as they review video, license plate readers, talk to human witnesses, and try to reconstruct what happened in this event, which apparently unfolded extraordinarily quickly.
And why would the nature of this event have drawn in so quickly that breadth of law enforcement?
Well, if you look at the climate, fears of anti-Semitism, incidents that are occurring right now in the Middle East, in the sphere of Israel and Gaza, tensions that have been rising since, terrorist propaganda that has been out there calling on people to take action. What you have is a perfect storm that can lead to something like this. And what they will be digging into is, was there an individual on a motorcycle? Is that the same person as the gunman, as witnesses suggest? If so, is that individual part of a highly planned operation with a number of people and part of a terrorist operation? Or is it, as we've seen more often than not, a lone wolf who put together a plan based largely on being inspired or radicalized over the internet or in person? These are not answers. These are questions.
There's many of them. We have the DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who has just tweeted, 2 Israeli embassy staff were senselessly killed tonight at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C. We are actively investigating and working to get more information to share. Please pray for the families of the victims. We will bring this depraved perpetrator to justice. People should understand, John, this is not in the outskirts. This is really central in Washington, D.C., a major metropolitan area. It's not that late at night. There was an event that was happening. Presumably the event was either publicized or at least enough people there that they knew there was an event going on. And when you're looking at all this unfold, besides the surveillance of the street footage and what's going on there, when do you turn to figure out cell phone data in the area? Who may have seen what the person looked like? Was there more than one person? How did this investigation unfold at this very infant stage?
Well, first you start with the live witnesses before they disappear into the ether. Then you do the canvas for the ones who fled or left, or you may find the next day by appealing literally through the media like this to say if you were there, if you saw something, if you were filming or videotaping with your phone something else, and you may have caught this. While all that's happening, the go-to is those cameras. There are cameras at that Jewish museum, and they're pretty good. But there are also cameras that may be available from the house across the street, an embassy up here, a traffic camera. Sure. You've got to collate all of those together and then see, do we see the gunman? Do we see the gunman fleeing? What's that direction of flight? Can we then track by the cameras and hopefully from an investigative standpoint, any license plate readers, motorcycle licenses are harder, along the way that will give them something. Is there a stop? Is there a switch car? Or are there other people involved? You really have to take the technology for that. In the meantime, there are people right now, as we sit here in Washington, D.C., down at my old office in the NYPD, who are logging onto those computers and going those sites to gauge the reaction, to see if there's a communique that has been posted. Has any person or group claimed responsibility? So many wheels start to turn simultaneously between the FBI, DC Metro PD, their people on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, even the NYPD, which will start reacting to this because of nothing more than you have a large number of high-profile Jewish targets in New York City, as many, if not more than Washington, that they will be pushing resources to right now and throughout tomorrow till they get a handle on what they think we have going on.
I want to bring in CNN senior national security analyst Juliet Kayyem to the conversation. John and I are talking about the steps that will immediately be taken to try to cast a very wide investigative net domestically, but we're talking about people from an embassy as well. You're talking about a net that could go internationally as well. When you're hearing about what has just happened and the details are coming in quickly, we're going to bring everyone what we have as them as they're unfolding. What is your take and analysis about what the steps will be to determine what happened and whether there were additional targets or anything?
So, I mean, I don't disagree with the thing that John has said. We are in an environment in which the Jewish community is in fear, rise in hate crimes and anti-Semitism, and these public gatherings are both, ways in which a community feeling under threat gets together, but of course celebrations. Some of the things on preliminary, and I'm just going to accept what Secretary Newell, Secretary of Homeland Security, said that the two people actually killed were both embassy staff. And that's just a data point that's worth noting in terms of what's the likelihood, what's the percentage of people there that were from the embassy, why only those two, where apparently the ambassador was not there. So in terms of investigation, you're really looking at, was this very quite targeted on Israeli staff of the embassy who are here in the United States. The second piece is the motorcycle. As John was saying, to me, that's just the tell-all. That's just a sophisticated hit, so to speak. The person will be able to get around DC traffic if they identification is harder to do so with a motorcycle. And so you are going to look at a planned attack and one that could have planning not just domestically, but of course internationally. And so this is a terrifying thing for the Jewish community, for people in DC, but it also has this really disconcerting wrinkle or aspect to it that would make you inevitably need to look to the possibility that there was a foreign terror attack in the United States targeting Israeli diplomats, and that is rare. It shows a certain amount of planning, an ability to do so, and evasion. I mean, we are now, each minute that passes, it's more time for this person to get away. So that's where the investigation is going to lead. I just want to say one more thing. Would be curious, or part of the investigation is going to be, because this was a public gathering with Israeli officials, how public was it? How do people get access to it? Those are the questions we're going to want answered, because in terms of the deliberative nature of this assassination, essentially, and this attack on the Jewish community, what kind of notice was out to the public in terms of the threat?
Juliette, Kyan, we have so much information to learn on this. We know the Attorney General was on the scene as well at the shooting. She tweeted out about this, along with the new U.S. Attorney from Washington, D.C., the interim one, Jeanine Pirro, as well. We're going to see a press conference. We're waiting on one to start. You can see that the lectern and podium is already up. Hopefully we'll get more information about the latest details that we all need to know. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll unpack all the details right here.
You drink never too much. Avoid your fingers and see it clear. Do it all with steel battery. Steel deals. Now is the best time to save big on over 40 hard-working steel tools. Hurry into your local steel dealer or shop online.
Artificial intelligence is redefining what's possible. At CoreWeave, our cloud platform is purpose-built for AI to provide the world's leading innovators with the performance and efficiency they need to realize AI's potential today and into the future. We are built for this moment. Powering AI innovations.
So, what do you think about the Jeep Wrangler? Very spacious. Loving the Fathom Blue. What are you going to use it for?
Thwarting international terrorism, saving the world. That can sound.
Probably as groceries. Sorry, we just saw Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, and we are very excited. Subscribe.
No mission is impossible with a Jeep Wrangler.
SoFi's helping me get my money right to achieve my ambitions, like saving for a better swing.
Loosen that grip.
With SoFi, I earn more money on my money and pay no accounting. Plus, I'm investing in my game. SoFi can help fund all your ambitions, no matter how ambitious. Bank with SoFi to score a higher APY and an epic welcome bonus. SoFi, get your money right.
Happy birthday again. Here's a cake and some friends. But what if we actually celebrate joy? What's next? Or good style. And the home she gave out food. It's my next
Just say I get you, Etsy.
Oh, why leaf filter? It's well designed, efficient. I appreciate that.
Leaf Filter's technology keeps debris out of your gutters for good. Guaranteed.
What more could you ask for?
Call 833-LEAF FILTER today or visit leaffilter.com.
Agriculture is the main life in Sussex County. I'm very proud of that. I felt like we were being left behind. Everybody around us had internet, but we did not. When I found out that Comcast was coming, I ran down the road and I said, welcome. High-speed internet's one of those good things that we needed to help us move our farming, our small businesses, our recreation forward. And now future generations will thrive here in Sussex County.
The one and only Botox Cosmetic, the only product of its kind, FDA approved for over 20 years.
I am super expressive. I'm always smiling. I'm always concentrating. When I am stressed, I raise my eyebrows. I am constantly smiling. I'm the one and only Taylor, and I got treated with the one and only Botox Cosmetic.
The original prescription treatment to temporarily improve the look of moderate to severe frown lines, crow's feet, and forehead lines. Botox cosmetic effects may spread hours to weeks after injection, causing serious symptoms. Alert your doctor right away as difficulty swallowing, speaking, breathing, eye problems, or muscle weakness may be a sign of a life-threatening condition. Patients with these conditions are at highest risk. Don't receive Botox cosmetic if you have skin infection. Side effects may include allergic reactions, injection site pain, headache, eyebrow, eyelid drooping, or swelling. Tell your doctor your medical history, muscle or nerve conditions, and medications including botulinum toxin, as these may increase the risk of serious side effects. Learn more at BotoxCosmetic.com.
Everybody tells me if you want to eat well in Spain, go to Galicia.
Here we've got the best produce in the world.
Would you like to try the best food you have ever eaten?
Yes.
Eva Longoria, Searching for Spain, returns June 1st on CNN.
We're back with the breaking news out of Washington, D.C. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says that 2 Israeli embassy staff were shot and killed at the D.C. Jewish Museum. Authorities are expected to give a news conference any moment now. John Miller, Juliet Kayyem are back with me. They are joining us as a retired FBI supervisory agent, Daniel Brunner, as well. Juliet, let me go to you quickly on this, too, because we are hearing details. They're unfolding very quickly. We're waiting on this press conference to begin. But based on the information that we have so far, give me your investigative mind here. What are your concerns about a shooting like this in the nation's capital?
Was that for me? Yes. So let's just start from the beginning. This was clearly a targeted attack against Israelis and the Jewish community, Jewish American as well as Jewish Israeli. So you start from that basic fact. This is not just a random gathering of people. We know the environment. We know the global environment. So your investigation is going to take a bunch of different places. One, you're going to take a step back. What kind of threat environment existed for this event? How much was known about who would be there? We have some confirmation that the people who were killed were employees. We don't know how high up of the Israeli embassy. So this is a attack against Israelis at an American Jewish event. And so that makes would also make you want to investigate what kind of foreign threats or foreign planning may have gone into this. You just simply can't deny it. It's just too much of a coincidence to think that an attack on a Jewish gathering happens to kill, right, two Israeli diplomats. So you're going to look at a very sort of targeted investigation about what threats were against them and what we might know from the outside, from foreign intelligence. So it's not just a homeland event. This is now taking on all sorts of investigation abroad. The second is, of course, the fact that this clearly seems premeditated, not just because of the attack and the ability to kill the Israeli embassy employees, but that the person escaped on a motorcycle. That feels more like an assassination in terms of how we know these things look, and will be investigated as such. This impact of this is, of course, not just with Israel, is with the Jewish community here in Mexico.
Let's go to John Miller on this too. You are learning some information as we're sitting here as well. Well, let's just remind the audience what has happened. What we do know so far is that 2 people believed to be connected to the Israeli embassy were shot this evening, just really moments ago. There is a huge law enforcement presence.
2 people shot, at least 3 others injured. Not clear if they were also shot or injured in whatever occurred as a result of the shooting. According to the Israeli ambassador in Washington, there is at least 1 fatality, perhaps more. We don't know the answer to that yet at this stage. We had also heard about witnesses saying the gunman may have fled on a motorcycle. I would couch that and say we also know from these incidents that some people will see a motorcycle speed away and say that must have been the gunman. Some people will see somebody running in a different direction. So all of this is very fluid in terms of the information we're getting. And that huge presence, as was already pointed out, you've got a planned event apparently going at the museum. You have people attending it. From a targeting standpoint, if you were targeting the Jewish target of the museum or the crowd, or particularly the potential of diplomats from the museum, depending on what advance information was out about what the event was going to be, who would be attending the event, all of these are factors that go into the planning piece that this is the kind of thing security people worry about, which is how much advance notice do we have? How much detail has been given? How much intelligence can an offender gather simply by going to the website when they're already in the mindset of potentially doing an attack?
I want to go to Daniel Brunner on this as well, invite you to the conversation, because, again, we are waiting for this press conference. It's going to presumably give us more information, but we are in the infancy of this entire investigation. John's talking about what happens in terms of the domestic angle. Of course, Juliet speaking about the more broader context internationally as well, given who this has impacted, and we don't know everyone yet. But what do you do now in terms of the online chatter? The idea of trying to figure out who might be responsible and whether there was some motivation that the law enforcement needs to ascertain in order to figure out if this is it.
Well, there's going to be a lot of factors that go into this investigation right now. So there's a lot of information coming in. Now, a lot of people, like John just said, a lot of people who see a motorcycle, a lot of people who see somebody else, an individual wearing jeans. So a lot of times these initial reports are not exactly accurate. So we need to wait until it really gets sifted out and find out exactly like you said, look online to see if there's online chatter. Right now, right across the street at Washington Field Office, there's going to be a crisis command post set up. There's going to be analysts, there'll be agents, and there's going to be evidence response, and it's going to be an all hands evolution to literally look at every single piece of this. One of the things that strikes me in learning of this, exactly what John said, was this a publicized event? So is this a targeted attack to the facility and to the people? Or were these individuals that were hit, they were specifically targeted? So I'd be looking at everything. Was there a lookout? Was there somebody advanced? Because if these 2 individuals that were deceased were the targets, there had to be someone on the lookout to identify when they're coming out. If this was just a random attack because of an Israeli situation, an Israeli event, then that has to be looked at to who was looking at these events. And there's going to be IP addresses. They're going to be looking at everything, the data, the metadata, online chatter, communications. Were there overt threats before this? And identify, the individuals. Was this a targeted attack against the individuals who died or the event itself?
We are waiting for this press conference to give more information about what they know at this stage of being right now. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, remember this happened in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital where you have all these different agencies, including those who are part of the kitchen cabinet. The Attorney General, Pam Bondi, tweeting just moments ago, I am on the scene of the horrible shooting outside the Washington, D.C. Capitol Jewish Museum with U.S. Attorney Pirro, of course, Jean Pirro, who was recently named the interim of Washington, D.C., the U.S. Attorney's Office, praying for the victims of this violence as we work to learn more. We've heard from Kristi Noem, Secretary, as well. Juliet, let me ask you, this is the nation's capital. This has happened in. Obviously, in most cities across the country, if there is a shooting of an individual, the local police department will be the one to spearhead what's happening. The nation's capital is different. The presence of the FBI, the fact that this is already involving the United States Attorney General, what does that tell you?
Well, this will be led by the FBI, not just because of the jurisdictional issues, but also clearly because of the nature of the attack, not just where the event that was focused, but the Israeli embassy has released that their employees were killed at short range, and so these are just the pieces of evidence that we know now. This is what they're stating. We have to figure out what exactly happened. But when the embassy says that, they are clearly cueing to the outside world that they view this as a attack on essentially the Israeli embassy, Israelis, the consulate, the ambassador, all of them are impacted by this. And so all of a sudden you're having, without even needing to think too hard about it, sort of international implications. Because we do protect diplomats and their staff ought to be protected here. So this is in D.C. There's jurisdictional issues in terms of course, it's going to involve D.C. police because it's going to be the streets and investigation. But in terms of the lead and the investigatory lead, because of the foreign nexus, it is clearly going to be driven by the FBI as it should be. But when I saw the Israeli embassy statement that their employees were killed at close range, this is their statement, we haven't confirmed it, that strikes me as a very targeted attack against Israel and its diplomats that is consistent with the anti-Semitism that but has a very different feel in terms of the investigation than if this were a synagogue, say, is all part of hatred, of course, but because of of who the victims seem to be right now, specifically, the investigation can be very targeted on that nexus.
We are hearing from the Israel's ambassador to the United Nations, Danny reacted to the report, saying in a statement on X, quote, the fatal shooting that took place outside the event that took place at the Jewish Museum in Washington, D.C., in which Israeli embassy employees were also injured. He's calling it a depraved act of anti-Semitic terrorism. Of course, D.C. police, the FBI, others are investigating. We are still in the infancy, John Miller, of what has taken place. The FBI field office working this issue. We've got the Attorney General of the United States invested, it seems, already. The interim U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., Jean Pirro, also on the scene. This is fluid, and people have to understand how fluid the investigation can be at the moment that it happens.
Well, you've got all of that going on. You've got the Secretary of Homeland Security, which is the agency that also oversees the Secret Service, which has a very specific role in Washington, D.C., of protecting the embassies and foreign diplomats, not just the White House and presidential.
The staff included, presumably.
I mean, any threat to the diplomatic community in in Washington, D.C. is covered by the Secret Service Uniform Division, and any assault or investigation would also include them. But as Juliet said, the FBI is going to be primary on this if, in fact, this steers towards this was an intentional shooting of foreign officials, be they diplomats or otherwise. It is the kind of thing that could well shake up into an act of terrorism, unless we find out, very different information about what occurred. That would be the assumptions that they would open a case like this on. Would be, let's start off with first assuming it may be terrorism, it may be targeted, and let's gather the facts, and then either peel that away or prove it. But this way they're able to throw a tremendous amount of resources and legal tools at it that might not be available in another case.
Daniel, I want to bring you back into this because the chronology and the timelines are very important when you're trying to unpack what happened. If there was somebody who was a close-range shooter or somebody who was a shooter on the scene, that person may have left some sort of trace of their journey to that location, either through the various street cameras or cameras that might be set up outside of this museum. Many of the museums in the area, many buildings in this area in Washington, D.C., heck, around the whole country, will have certain surveillance or security cameras around it. How important will that be in trying to reconstruct the path that whatever shooter took to get to that particular location?
It's going to be really important for the investigators. I can't help but think about the United Healthcare CEO shooting in New York City. Following the shooting, obviously, the pieces were put together. The video was seeing him fleeing the area, and then having on a bike, getting to the west side, fleeing on a bicycle, and then moving, westward in a westward direction. So that gave investigators a clue and a direction, and being able to piece together his pattern. That's exactly what they're going to do right now. As John said, there's a lot of cameras around the area. This is right across the street from the Washington field office. There are numerous cameras in the area. So if this is just an individual who had a grudge against the Israeli embassy, then we'll see if there's cellular devices. We're going to look for his cell phone data, and then see if telephone calls were made. They're going to look at the towers. They're going to look at physical evidence. What physical evidence was left behind? They're going to try to determine based on the cameras, based on witnesses. So all of this will be put together at the Crisis Command Center, and all of this evidence pieces together. And when the Crisis Command Center is able to put together, they're able to paint a good picture of what it actually happened here. The FBI has the best ability to put all of these pieces together, and that's why they work very closely with the DC police and other ATF and all the federal authorities, putting the pieces together and understanding his pattern, not only what he did after, but how he got there. How was his method of entry? Where was his egress? All of these patients, when they are able to get a physical description of the shooter, then they're going to paint the picture backwards and forwards and build that investigation over time. Again, we need to be very cautious about these initial reports and, sending agents in the wrong direction based on these erroneous reports right off the beginning. Let the investigation progress, and let the physical evidence, the video evidence, cellular evidence, and internet traffic, that's really going to define this investigation. And as it goes on, it's going to be a long process.
A really important point. We're waiting for a press conference to start. We'll bring you what we know immediately when we have it. We've got CNN Senior Justice Correspondent Evan Craig, who's on the phone with me. Evan, this is in the backyard, heck, the front yard, from field offices in the heart of Washington, D.C. What can you tell us?
Yeah, this location is right across from the Washington field office of the FBI. The Capitol Jewish Museum is right catty-corner from there. And then, of course, Georgetown Law School is right down the street, just another block away. So this is in the middle of the heart of Washington. You have, obviously, the federal courts are right, like a couple blocks away, and all of the courthouses are right here. So, from a normal standpoint, there's a lot of security in this area, and there's not a lot that happens at this time of night over here. So that's one of the things that really stood out as soon as we heard this. Made us pay attention.
Absolutely. I mean, the boldness of the behavior and the shooting in the presence of all of these different things. And just in what our audience is seeing right now, Evan, the amount of attention and pressure to find out what has happened, because we are a hop, skip, and a jump from this location to places like Capitol Hill, where you've got members of Congress who are debating and undertaking legislative activity. You are down the street practically from the White House, from the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C., from major transportation hubs like Union Station, the Amtrak train station. This is a very centralized area. To have this amount of activity and police presence to find out what happened is very important. Joining me now is the Israeli ambassador to the United Nations, Ambassador Danny Danon. Ambassador, thank you for joining us. We are hearing and learning details by the second about what happened. There's so much more to learn. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, it's a very difficult night for the Jewish people, for the American people, to see a terror attack in the capital of the United States. We are waiting to receive more information from the authorities. But, we have seen what happened in the last 2 weeks. We have seen the incitement on campuses. We have seen the incitement in many places. And unfortunately, today we faced a horrible terror attack against innocent people. I'm sure that the authorities will make sure they will find out exactly who's behind it. But I think the more important issue is also to address the incitement. When people are spreading lies, blaming us on genocide, calling for intifada, or like armed revolt against Israel, that is the consequences we saw tonight.
Ambassador Danon, it seems pretty clear that you believe that this was an anti-Semitic attack, and I'm wondering about the victims, if you know. Were the staff members who were killed, were they attending the Jewish Museum event? Did you have any indication beforehand or threat that had been made that you were aware
of? So we cannot go into details at this stage, but when you have an event of a Jewish event in a Jewish museum, there's no coincidence there. Somebody came with intentions. Unfortunately, it was successful. Wounding people, killing people. I think it's horrible. And I think it's attack not against us as the Jews or Israelis. It's attack against the values of the United States of America, the freedom of the American people. And I think we will have to go and look deeper about the incitement that we have seen in the last 2 weeks.
Do you know how many people were attending this event or whether it was open to the public?
Well, from what we can say, it was an event that was for young people who are involved in the community in Washington, D.C. and the area, came to show support.
How many people were in attendance? And this is as it's letting out?
No, but it is a rotation all around the United States. And the fact somebody actually chose to target a Jewish event, you have synagogues, you have Jewish communities, they should condemn the violence and incitement we saw in the last few weeks.
This violence of tonight is certainly just unconscionable. Do you know anything about who they suspect has committed this horrible event?
Good evening. I'm Muriel Bowser.
I'm going to listen to the press conference, Ambassador. Excuse me.
I am here with the Chief of the Metropolitan Police Department, Pamela Smith, and we are joined by members of the Washington, D.C. Public Safety Team and our partners in the federal government from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Special Agent in charge, as well as the Assistant Director in charge. We are also joined by the Attorney General for the United States, Pam Bondi, the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Judge Pirro, as well as the Israeli Ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Leichter. We are here at the MPD headquarters to provide an update on a horrific shooting that happened shortly after 9 p.m. this evening near the Capitol Jewish Museum. I want to start by sending our condolences to the loved ones of the victims who were senselessly a victim of these crimes. I want to provide my prayers and condolences to the museum staff and the guests who are also gathering together in fellowship. The chief will share preliminary information from the investigation. I will say up front that there is no active threat in our community. What I do know is that the horrific incident is going to frighten a lot of people in our city and in our country. And I want to be clear that we will not tolerate this violence or hate in our city. We will not tolerate any acts of terrorism, and we're going to stand together as a community in the coming days and weeks to send a clear message that we will not tolerate anti-Semitism. I want to ask Chief Smith to talk about where we are with this investigation, followed by our FBI partners, and lastly, Ambassador Leichter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm Chief Pamela A. Smith, Chief of Police for the Metropolitan Police Department, and I'll start by expressing my sincere condolences to both. Victims and families, and also the attendees tonight at the Capitol Jewish Museum. At approximately 9:08 p.m. tonight, we received multiple calls for a shooting in the area of 3rd Street and F Street Northwest. Officers located one adult male and one adult female unconscious and not breathing at the scene. DC Fire and EMS responded, and despite all life-saving efforts, both victims succumbed to their injuries. The preliminary investigation indicates that both victims were exiting an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum located in the 500 block of 3rd Street Northwest when the shooting occurred. Believed the shooting was committed by a single suspect who is now in custody. Prior to the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense. The suspect chanted, "Free, free Palestine," while in custody. The suspect has been tentatively identified as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, Illinois. Our MPD case detectives are leading this investigation. I will now turn it over to Washington Field Office Associate Director Steve Jensen.
Thank you, Chief. I'm Steve Jensen, the Assistant Director in charge of the Washington Field Office. I'd also like to express my sincere condolences not only to the family of the victims, but to the ambassador and the grievance for the Israeli nation. Tonight, a heinous crime was committed, and the FBI stands with the Metropolitan Police Department to help not only investigate the homicide and provide support, but also to look into ties to potential terrorism or motivation based on a bias-based crime or a hate crime. That's our reason for being here. Full support of the FBI to Metropolitan Police Department to resolve this. And I also want to express my sincere gratitude to Metropolitan Police Department for their quick action, their attempts to render aid despite the nature of the crime resulting in the death of the victims. Getting the subject in custody quickly resolved this issue and allows us to continue with the investigation. With that, I'll turn it over to the ambassador.
Thank you. Really what I have to say this evening is thank you, Mayor, your amazing staff, Attorney General Spondi, Chief Attorney for Washington, Judge Janine Pirro, couple that was gunned down tonight in the name of Free Palestine. It's a young couple about to be engaged. The young man purchased a ring this week with the intention of proposing to his girlfriend next week in Jerusalem. They were a beautiful couple, came to enjoy an evening in Washington's Cultural Center. I will say this: we are a resilient people. People of Israel are resilient people. The people of the United States of America are resilient people. Together we won't be afraid. Together we'll stand. And we're going to overcome moral depravity of people who think that they're going to achieve political gains through murder. On the way in, Ms. Bondi was kind enough to hand me the phone. On the other line was the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Real quick, man, this part of being sponsored and brought to you by A-Bun Beauty Product, Bush, and the heat of the night, Group Baby Happy. Don't get to my girl. What's a big shout out to Bob ran out there on the damn floor. I see you been rocking them glasses. Yeah, I'm be honest, man. Bob ran got a black eye, man. She was down there in front of Club Bull down in Atlanta, Georgia, trying to get some niggas change their life or get their life to God. She was unfortunately physically assaulted by 3 fat old 2 sisters. I said, don't matter if you're straight, back, gay, or transgender. Just don't forget to tell the motherfucking body. You know, it's a little scary and shit. That girl definitely got something. Next, we got the Bankhead Baptist Church. Yeah. Last year went with Miss Maylene, man, Bankhead Baptist Church down so long, we didn't realize she was having a seizure, man. I said, damn, gotta get that wig rotated. She had it on backwards, so the hair was hanging over her face like a shih tzu. We didn't see her eyes going in the back of the head, but at the end of the day, God seen a bigger picture. Don't forget to do the body. Hey, man, we all night, man. Don't get too much else.
Who told me that his administration is going to do everything it can possibly do to fight and end anti-Semitism and the hatred that's being directed, the demonization and delegitimization of the State of Israel. Together with President Trump, our Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, will stand together tall and firm, and we will confront this moral depravity without fear and with determination. And now we'll turn to taking care of the families of these 2 victims. And again, I think the American administration, the city of Washington, and the law enforcement officers who are on this case are going to get to the bottom of it and bring justice to this city and to the people of Washington, the United States, and the people of Israel who are here feeling confident and safe in the city of Washington and around the United States of America. Thank you.
Can take a few questions, Chief.
Hi, Shamari Stone from Fox 5 DC. You say that there is a suspect in custody right now, and he walked into the museum. What is he telling investigators tonight?
Well, I don't know what he's telling them at this moment. What I do know is that he is in custody. And as you know, Amari, we have to conduct an investigation, and that requires us to ask many questions. At the time of this press conference, I'm not privileged to that information as of right now.
Hi, Evan Paris for CNN. Is there any indication when he entered the Jewish Museum that he was planning to carry out additional shootings? Was he trying to harm other people? Is there any indication? Can you tell us any more about that? And also for the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney, can you say whether, given the diplomatic component of this, does this become a federal investigation, a federal crime to be prosecuted by the federal government?
So in response to your first question, we're still conducting the investigation. And at this moment, again, it's preliminary. So you'll have to give us a little bit more time to determine what the motives were at this point.
And you heard from the chief and from the special agent in charge. The MPD is investigating the homicides and the FBI's role of doors as always when there is any possibility of a terrorist act or acts motivated by hate or other bias. The FBI will be conducting those investigations. All homicides are prosecuted in the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C. by the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. Okay.
Carl Willis, 7 News. Just a question about, after everything that happened, the stance from local and possibly federal law enforcement about any protection moving forward or heightened security for this community.
Thank you for that question. And I'm going to turn to the chief, but we have a long history and a lot of practice in our city working with Jewish organizations around safety and around protection. And we watch global events, national events, and local events. And our organizations work directly with MPD, and MPD responds with additional resources. And so I know the chief will spend tonight and tomorrow, and we'll be talking to all of our organizations, from schools to synagogues to other organizations, to make sure we are supporting in every way that we can. Yes.
You mentioned that the suspect was detained by event security after entering the museum.
Yeah.
Is it correct to say that he surrendered voluntarily to security, or was he forcefully detained?
I don't know that we can say that right now. It's part of what MPD is investigating. Yes.
Hi, Shlomi Zines, Ami Magazine. I have a question for the police chief. I want to know if there was perhaps any indication that something like this might happen. Was there any heightened security or threats that you were aware of? And also for the Attorney General, do you have a message for Jewish Americans who are feeling concerned for their safety tonight?
What I will say to your first question is that we have not received any intelligence with respect to any type of terrorist act or hate crime in our city. As you know, we work very well with all of our partners in the intelligence community. And had we received any information, as we would do any time, we would ensure that we had heightened security around our city at most of our synagogues.
I could just add, and then we have, for a number of years, we put out grants to organizations, and we allow organizations to apply for grants. And there have been a lot of faith organizations that have applied for special security grants. And so we continue to do that in the city. We've been able to deploy millions of dollars so organizations can have increased security.
Mayor, thank you. Chief, thank you. Ambassador, our hearts go out to you and your staff. I spoke to the President of the United States multiple times tonight on behalf of the President. His prayers are with all of us, all of the Jewish community, everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case. We'll be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe, especially tonight, our Jewish community. Our prayers go out. We have the FBI, all of our federal agencies will work hand in hand with you, Chief, as we have done, and you, Mayor, to do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. We will follow the facts. We will follow the law. And this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Last two. 1, 2. Yes.
Hi, I'm Michael Koziel, the Sydney Morning Herald. Just on the man in custody, could you confirm the spelling of his name? You said that he was from Chicago. Do we know if he travelled to DC with the intention of, committing this act? And just finally, did he say anything else while in police custody other than free Palestine?
So the correct spelling of his first name is E as in Echo, L as in Lima, I as in India, A as in Apple, S as in Sierra. Last name Rodriguez, Romeo, Oscar, Delta, Romeo, India, Golf, Uniform, Echo, Zulu. And as I've stated before, the case is still under investigation, and that will be determined with regards to if he said any other statements while in custody. We're uncertain at this time.
Mr. Rodriguez.
30 years old.
So 31. Beatrice Peterson, ABC News. I was wondering, is this individual known to police? Have you had any prior interactions with him?
We have not had any prior interactions with him based on an NCIC check. We don't see anything in his background that would have placed him on our radar at this time. But again, our Joint Terrorism Task Force is working very closely with the FBI to ensure that we can do a deep dive into his background.
Shamari Stone, Fox 5, real quick question. You said that he was pacing back and forth in front of the building prior to this incident. Did security engage with the suspect prior to the shooting? Did he look suspicious? Did they see him outside?
I'm not sure about that at this time. That's a part of the investigation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there any indication that the firearm that was used in the crime was purchased illegally, legally obtained? Was there a serial number? Was it filed off? Do we know any details right now?
Our ATF partners will do a deep dive with respect to the firearms as they typically would with any firearms here in the District of Columbia. So thank you, and expect as we have more to report to get additional facts from the Metropolitan Police Department. Thank you.
You have been watching a live presser on a shooting in Washington, D.C. Police say 2 staff members from the Israeli embassy in D.C. have been killed near the Capitol Jewish Museum. There's believed to be a single suspect who is now in custody. That is according to the Metropolitan Police. The police chief also saying during this press conference that the suspect first approached a group, produced a handgun, and then proceeded to open fire. And one other important detail, the suspect said, according to the police, the words free Palestine, while they were in custody. CNN's Gabe Cohen joins me now on the phone. Gabe, obviously these initial details are coming in. We do know a lot more now from law enforcement than even 10, 15, 20 minutes ago. What stood out to you, and what are the other steps that law enforcement would be taking now as these details are coming in and with the suspect now in custody?
I think the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, her opening statement during the press conference really stood out. The tone and the language that she used, given that the shooting happened just about 6 hours ago, and yet she felt compelled to say that this incident will frighten people both here in the nation's capital and across the country, and that, frankly, the district is not going to tolerate hate in our community or acts of terrorism or anti-Semitism. Those were words that she used outside the Capitol Jewish Museum, where this couple that was soon to be engaged, according to the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. who spoke during that press conference, this couple was leaving the museum when the shooter was seen pacing outside. He approached a group of 4 people, including those 2. He opened fire at them. He killed the man and woman, then entered the museum where he was obtained. We don't know, though, if he gave himself up, voluntarily taken into custody, or if he was taken down by security. But, as you mentioned, once he was in custody, he yelled, free Palestine. And this is, again, as the police chief laid out, 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago, who is their primary suspect, their lone suspect in this shooting. No doubt they're going to be looking into any ties he potentially has to terrorist groups, the FBI looking into this as a potential hate crime. But I can tell you, just having covered concerns about anti-Semitism across Washington, D.C. over the past couple of years, this is a community that's been on high alert. You might remember a little more than a year ago, there was a member of the military that self-immolated outside of the Israeli embassy, who videotaped it, streamed it live, talked about the reason he was doing it being Israel's military action in Gaza, that her administration is going to be talking to schools,
to synagogues, making sure that they have the necessary security in place. But this is an incident that really has shaken this city, and we also know that the President of the United States, Donald Trump, called the Israeli ambassador a little earlier tonight and essentially sent the message that his administration is going to provide whatever resources they need and is going to stand with Israel. And so, again, MJ, a lot of details in that press conference, but I think it will only really inflame the tensions that are already happening amid the war in Gaza.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about how jarring this is going to be for a lot of folks tuning in. I want to go next to our colleague, John Miller. You obviously have been reporting on and talking to your sources from the initial moments of when we found out that there was an incident. John, I really want your take on what stood out to you from all of the details that we just heard from this press conference, and particularly this detail that the suspect, while in custody, said the words, "Free Palestine." Does that paint a clear picture of motivation?
Well, it certainly does. It doesn't leave much to the imagination in terms of motive when he's in custody, and that's what he's saying. But what we learned, which is he approached 4 people. He had been pacing around. When he approached those 4 people, he opened fire. 3 were injured. Obviously, as we know, 2 were killed. And Gabe told us the tragic background of that story. But if you go between those lines in how he conducted himself before he committed this horrific act, allegedly, what you see is someone who put himself on the scene of that event, waited for it to end, and then opens fire, kills 2 people, and then discards the weapon. But he walks into the event. He contacts security and basically says, here's where you can find the gun, implying that he's the shooter. And when they take him into custody without any resistance, he says, free, free Palestine. So what do you get from that? What you get from that is this was something that was planned ahead rather than spontaneous. This was something that was targeted. But more importantly, this is something that the gunman wanted to be associated with. Didn't attempt to get away, didn't attempt to flee. When he wasn't immediately captured after the shooting, actually, instead of trying to get away, walked inside the museum, according to police, made contact with security, and made statements implying he was the shooter. And then he made his political statement, which obviously goes to motive, apparently goes to motive. So that tells us a lot about this person, which is he wants to be associated with this act. He wants the attention that comes from it. He's a 30-year-old man from Chicago, Illinois. D.C. police say that having run him through NCIC, the FBI's National Crime Information Center, that they had not had contact with him, at least to the extent that he had been involved in an arrest or any trouble in Washington. Now they'll be backtracking with colleagues in the Chicago PD and the Chicago FBI field office to say, what is the background they have on him? What does he have for family there? What does he have for friends or employment? How long has he been in Washington? Did he come for this specific purpose? They'll talk to friends, associates, family members, anyone they can find to kind of peel back the layers of how was he acting? Was he stable? What was he talking about? And how was he drawn into this issue?
And John, what did you make of the chief police saying that there is a single suspect who is now in custody, and authorities are also saying that there is no active threat at this moment in time? I mean, is that kind of conclusion at this moment in the investigation pretty unusual? And what would authorities have had to learn to come to that conclusion, that there was just one single suspect acting alone?
Well, MJ, we have to separate 2 things. One, we are all aware, whether it's the law enforcement agencies or even we who report on it, that there has been an increased threat to the Jewish community really going forward from October 7th. If you're in my business and you spend a lot of time monitoring the chat rooms and the platforms that different terrorist organizations use, trying to encourage attacks, calling for blood. You see that threat on a daily basis. But I think what the chief meant specifically was, as far as this incident goes, we believe that it was carried out by a single suspect, that we have that suspect and his weapon in custody, and we have no reason to believe at this point that he was acting with anyone else, that he was acting alone, and that in that sense, there's no further threat from this incident. On the other hand, you will see in Washington, D.C., by daylight, but especially in New York City and other cities with
Hello.
Jewish communities and
Booty cheeks. Booty cheeks. Booty cheeks.
consulates, museums, cultural institutions, you will likely see enhanced police presence until they really get a handle on what are the ripples that come from this. And that's standard procedure whenever there's a targeted attack against a Jewish location or individual.
Many people across the country will be waking up out of this news. John Miller, thank you so much.
Thanks, MJ.
We'll be right back.
Damn. We the lazy declare that we will recline when we feel inclined. And yes, we feel inclined.
We answered our kids' questions all day. It's our time to prioritize, no priorities. Like,
We put in back-to-back doubles. So now we'll be putting in extra OT right here.
we've checked off our to-do list.
Now we're checking off our to-do list.
We the lazy are taking back lazy.
By getting comfy on our lazy boy furniture.
Lazy boy, long live the lazy.
I cast my hands in cement so I wouldn't snack. What about wonderful pistachios? They're tasty and healthy.
Ah, pistachios! Why didn't I think of that? Ow!
Do it all with Steel Battery. Don't miss Steel deals. Now is the best time to save big on over 40 hardworking Steel tools. Hurry into your local Steel dealer or shop online.
Little things. Little things that reveal hidden opportunities through the power of Dell AI with Intel Inside. Little things that add up to something big. Using technology to gain an advantage in real time. Delivering wins that change the game for everyone.
It's the Sleep Number Everything Smart Bed sale. Save on everything cooling, ache relief, and more. Every smart bed and base are on sale during our Memorial Day event, up to 50% off, plus free premium delivery when you add an adjustable base. Only at Sleep Number.
Happy birthday again. Here's a cake and some friends. But what if you actually celebrate true love? And how much you love snacks? Or her elegant style? In the home she gave Alfie. With gifts from
Gifts? Say I get you. Let's see.
Don't wish. Don't hope. Don't dream. No. Plan. See the steps it takes to get it done right, then follow them. At Avis, we rent cars, unlike anyone else rents cars, because for 75 years, we've only had one plan. To make sure you keep yours.
Drums keep pounding a rhythm to the brain. La-di-da-di-dee.
Sometimes the greatest rush
La-di-da-di-da.
is not rushing at all.
The beat goes on.
The all-new 2025 Nissan Murano. Your oasis, free from new tariffs.
A year after a heart attack, Mike's feeling like himself again. But even though time has passed, his risk of a second attack hasn't. Mike is still living in the red, with a very high risk of another heart attack or stroke. He doesn't know with his risk factors, his LDL-C, bad cholesterol, is still too high. The recommended level is below 55. Are you at risk? Get in the know. Learn how to get a free LDL-C test at attackheartdisease.com.
Spain, where tradition meets the future. With delicious food from the best chefs the country has to offer. Explore the unexpected. Eva Longoria, Searching for Spain, returns June 1st on CNN.
This is CNN Breaking News.
An update on the deadly shooting outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. Authorities say the suspected gunman is now in custody and is believed to be the sole attacker. He's been identified by police as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez from Chicago. We're told after he was detained, he showed security where he had discarded his weapon and chanted, "Free, free Palestine." The Israeli ambassador to the U.S. says the two people killed were a young couple about to be engaged. According to the U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security, the victims were staff members at the Israeli embassy. The head of the American Jewish Committee said his organization was hosting an event at the museum ahead of the attacks. Joining me now, CNN senior national security analyst Julia Kayam. Julia, thanks for being here. I want to know what stood out to you from this press conference that we just watched. We know the name now of this single suspect. We know that they are now in custody. We know the weapon of choice. All of this information, again, was obtained by the authorities that were on the scene. Clearly, they are saying that this was a targeted event. This person was there for a reason, and that there was clear motivation, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, look, of course, I have to say we're learning information, and this is preliminary, but everything we've heard from official sources is this was an anti-Semitic attack against an organization, the AJC, that was holding an event. I've got emails from someone who's there. I've talked to someone who's at the event. This is the AJC. It's called the Young Diplomats Event, or Young Dips, as one of the people put it. Is there are many people there that are from a variety of embassies. So it's sort of a way to get young professionals to in the foreign policy and foreign service space to get to know each other. So in many ways, it was counter to the hate that would be experienced later that evening in D.C. So this event is not public in the sense we're just opening our doors, but probably someone who wanted to figure out what was going on with AJC could have probably figured that out. That just goes to premeditation. So now that they have a suspect, the suspect has a motive, a stated motive, of course. His statement, "Free Palestine," has to be read as a hate statement towards the people who are victims tonight. And we'll go into now his digital and social media presence for two reasons. One is, were there hints of radicalization, hints of a hate crime that he wanted to plan? And the second is, was anyone else in on it, and in particular, any foreign influences in terms of radicalization? I don't know yet. I want to be very clear. This is just what a rational investigation would do at this time, knowing what we know now and knowing what we know about the global environment right now, hate crimes, anti-Semitism, and a heightened environment politically and globally because what is going on in Israel and Gaza. We cannot deny that. And so what radicalization process occurred that took these young Israeli diplomats' lives is important for not just for the investigation and their families, but of course to understand the radicalization that's happening here domestically in the United States.
And Juliet, the fact that this incident happened in the nation's capital, in downtown D.C., across the street from the FBI's Washington field office, I mean, what is this going to do to the security measures across D.C.? I mean, this is a city where security measures are already quite tight.
That's right. So we heard a little bit of this from the D.C. police chief, D.C. mayor, and the representative from the FBI, and I think more nationally. So, look, these are organizations like the AJC, ADL, others that have been targeted, have been facing anti-Semitism threats and hate crimes, as we know, in the last couple of years. So there'll be a heightened sense of exposure and vulnerability by them, of course. And so I think you'll see a lot of law enforcement, local, state, and federal lean in to support them and to give them confidence for a variety of events that may be ongoing right now, or certainly your Friday is the Jewish Sabbath. So there are larger events in synagogues there. So I think you're going to see a lot more police presence for the Jewish community nationally, and then in D.C., a much greater D.C. as well as federal presence in particular, where the Israeli embassy is, to protect the Israeli ambassador. But this was an event that I just want to say again, the sort of horror of it is this is an event that was bringing lots of young people together whose countries probably disagree on things to try to maybe leave it to the next generation. So I think we heard it in the ambassador's voice, the killing of 2 young Israeli diplomats is just horrifying, I think, for the community, for all of us.
Yeah, horrifying is correct. Julia Kayan, thank you so much. And a short while ago, the U.S. president weighed in, writing on Truth Social, these horrible D.C. killings based obviously on anti-Semitism must end now. Hatred and radicalism have no place in the USA. Condolences to the families of the victims. So sad that such things as this can happen. God bless you all. Our senior U.S. Justice correspondent, Evan Perez, was at the news conference authorities held just minutes ago. He joins me now on the phone. Evan, I was listening to that press conference and heard the questions that you asked, including whether authorities believe the suspect was basically planning to do anything else, and also whether this is going to be prosecuted as a federal crime. Tell us what you were told.
Right. Well, the first question is, one of the important parts of this is that the police said that the suspect walked in to the museum building where this event was happening and was apprehended by security. Now, the question is, were they trying to kill additional people? There possibly could have been greater bloodshed if that was the intent. And so that was one of the things I think it's clear from the response of law enforcement. They're still investigating that. They don't know at this point everything that he was planning to do. But MJ, one of the things that I think is really important is also, if you look on the website for this event, the AJC, the organization that was holding this event, one of the things you see, the listing for this event this evening, and it says location provided upon registration. And what that indicates is that there was some security precautions being taken for this event. In other words, they didn't just advertise that this was happening where it was happening. You had to register in order to get the location, at least according to the listing I saw on their website. And that's important because this person perhaps researched before coming to this location. There's some indication, obviously, that there's a lot more to this, right? So I think we're going to learn probably a lot more from the police in the coming days about the preparation. Obviously, this person's from Chicago. We don't know what any connection to Washington that they have. And so that's one of the concerns is, did he have any help, any associations, anybody, any organization outside the United States that was involved in this, and was he connected to any groups? Those are the things that the FBI says are at the top of their list for investigating now.
And Evan, the fact that we are talking about Israeli embassy staff, the investigation is obviously going to be requiring heavy coordination between U.S. officials and Israeli officials. Do we know what that coordination is going to look like?
I think you already see it very, very, every indication of that. The Israeli ambassador, I just saw him walk away from the scene. He was here with the Attorney General. He was walking from the scene. He he spoke at the event, as you heard him describe the young couple that were shot and killed. But he was here. He went back to the scene right at the museum with the Attorney General and with the FBI and ATF people who are here. And so it's clear that they're going to be coordinating to try to see whether there's any connection that the Israelis might be able to figure out. For instance, if there's any connections to groups in that region. So that's something obviously the Israelis would be able to provide. But also, from an FBI standpoint, this clearly they're going to be very, very much involved in this, and the idea that the Joint Terrorism Task Force was here. It tells you a lot about where this is going. For now, the Metropolitan Police, obviously, they're doing the crime scene work because this is a murder, 2 murders on the streets of Washington. It's not right at an embassy or anything like that. But the FBI clearly will have to coordinate this with the Israelis and with and given the priority this is going to take, obviously. And also, the bigger question too is, how do you improve security for events related to, for example, the Jewish community and the Muslim community? Because one of the things that happens after things like this is that you see people have, terrible ideas to try to follow it up.
All right, Evan Perez, thank you so much. And we'll be right back.
My happy place. One place I could truly be myself. I feel a deep sense of calm when I feel it. Whenever my schedule clears, I head straight to my happy place.
Raleigh allowed me to put myself first.
Thailand seemed very welcoming to me. I hate how good that is.
I want people to experience this beautifully intricate, diverse city. There's no other place like it. My happy place returns Sunday, June 1st on Saturday. Join the more than 7 million adults, like Michael, who've taken Ozempic.
As touring musicians, my type 2 diabetes could have slowed us down, but I didn't let it. I'm Michael from the Warren Treaty, and this is what my Ozempic era looks like. I'm lowering my A1C and lost some weight, too. I also learned some people take Ozempic to lower the risk of major cardiovascular events like stroke, heart attack, or death, and others take it to lower the risk of worsening chronic kidney disease.
Don't share needles or pens or reuse needles. Don't take if you or your family had MTC, MEN2, or if allergic to it. Stop taking and get medical help right away if you get a lump or swelling in your neck or any of these allergic reactions. Tell your provider if you plan to have surgery or a procedure, are nursing, pregnant, or plan to be. Serious side effects may include inflamed pancreas, gallbladder or severe stomach problems, or changes in vision. Call your prescriber if you have any of these symptoms. Taking with a sulfonylurea or insulin may raise low blood sugar risk. Common side effects include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, stomach pain, constipation. Some side effects lead to dehydration, which may worsen kidney problems. Discover the GLP-1 with the most FDA-approved uses. Ozempic.
The all-new Infiniti QX80, a 450 horsepower twin-turbo beast of luxury. Invest in an Infiniti during the once-in-a-springtime event. We won't raise the MSRP on any vehicle before June 2nd.
Summer's on its way, and Wayfair's big Memorial Day clearance is here now. It's the talk of the neighborhood. Right now, through May 27th, get up to 70% off everything home.
Yeah.
Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals and surprise flash deals for 24 hours. And get it all with fast shipping straight to your door. Save up to 70% off Wayfair's big Memorial Day clearance now through May 27th. And kickstart your summer with savings.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
When investing leads to questions, JP Morgan Wealth Management has powerful tools, research from expert analysts, and a single view of your banking and investing accounts right in the Chase mobile app. When you want to take control of your financial future, the answer is JP Morgan Wealth Management.
Explore the world the Viking way. From the quiet comfort of elegant small ships with no children and no casinos. We actually have reinvented ocean voyages, designing all-inclusive experiences for the thinking person. Viking, voted world's best by both Travel and Leisure and Condé Nast Traveler. Learn more at Viking.com.
Everyone's getting that new Simply Safe outdoor monitor.
How do we compete with AI-powered outdoor cameras and live agent monitoring? Stop. This is Simply Safe.
Whoa! I didn't see those guys. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Propel Fitness Water with Gatorade electrolytes, zero sugar, and vitamins. Propel hydrates better than water to help you get the most out of your workout and get back to your best self. What propels you? Propel with Gatorade electrolytes.
Bent finger appointment in 30 minutes.
I want a treatment with minimal downtime. 4, I want a non-surgical treatment. And 5,
And if non-surgical treatment isn't offered?
I'll get a second opinion. Let's go.
Take charge of your treatment. If you can't lay your hand flat, visit findahandspecialist.com to get started.
From Rose Bowl festivities to Major League ballparks, ESPN Experiences takes you behind the scenes and inside the action. Next up, the Travelers Championship. Your all-access pass starts here.
Eva Longoria, Searching for Spain, returns June 1st on CNN.
Back now to our breaking news out of Washington, D.C., where police say 2 Israeli embassy staffers have been killed in a shooting near the Capitol Jewish Museum in Washington. Authorities say a suspect is now in custody, and he had been seen pacing outside the museum before that attack. The police chief says the 30-year-old suspect chanted "Free, Free Palestine" while they were in custody. The D.C. mayor has reassured the community that there is no active threat. CNN's chief law enforcement and intelligence analyst John Miller joins me again now from New York. John, 9:08 p.m. is when the police chief said they started getting calls about this shooting. So it's been now just over 3 hours. I know you were closely watching that press conference where we got some preliminary information about the 2 victims, the suspect who is in custody. Walk us through in detail the process now that is going to be unfolding of reconstructing what happened and the information gathering.
Well, they'll begin with the suspect they have in custody. Is he willing to talk to them? Is he willing to share information? Is he willing to talk about what brought him to this moment, which he is alleged to be behind this double murder and this targeted shooting? In the meantime, they'll also be trying to reconstruct his movements regardless of whether he talks or not, which means they're going to look for how did he get to Washington? When did he get to Washington? Where did he stay in Washington? Let's get a search warrant for that hotel room, that friend's room, that house, wherever he bedded down, if he was there before today for this event. Where is his car? Locate that vehicle. Obtain a search warrant for that vehicle. Before you go and search that vehicle, if they go by the book, they'll get the bomb squad and bomb squad K-9 to sweep that vehicle to make sure that isn't booby-trapped or some second step in some larger plan. They will go into his social media. They will go back through his social media to determine who are his social media friends. They'll want to contact friends and relatives and find out what they can about him. But basically, they will be walking backwards first through the events of tonight to see how far they can trace him from the moment he got to Washington and then before. And then they will be walking forward to figure out what they can learn from his phone, if he had a phone with him. If he didn't, where is it? From his computer, from his digital trail. There's so much work to be done. And yet, when you think, MJ, of the attempted assassinations against President Trump, where they went through the very same steps with the individuals involved in those 2 acts, or if you look at what we just saw back in April with the Passover attack, where an individual scaled the fence, got into the governor of Pennsylvania's house, a former vice presidential possibility in the last election, and nearly burned it down with the governor and his family sleeping upstairs. They went back through his claims of doing that also potentially for Palestine. And, you're going to get 2 or 3 kinds of individuals. You may get a committed terrorist. You may get an individual who is mentally unstable. That's why they really need to do all of this background, and of course, to make sure that there is no one else behind this or no group associated with it.
And John, when we spoke earlier, you said, you know, it kind of goes without saying that security measures are going to be more heightened here in Washington, D.C. Again, just to remind everyone, you know, this is an event that happened across the street from the FBI field office. Obviously, the fact that this is happening in the nation's capital, we are going to see what kinds of new measures are going to be put in place. John Miller, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, MJ.
We'll be right back.
It was the most exciting time in the
Girl, what?
joyful moments, but some really difficult moments.
You only come across an artist like Luther Vandross once in a lifetime.
We've heard never too much. Memorial Day at 8 on CNN. Don't let congestion take over. Afernosis. Wow. Ridiculous. Fast nasal congestion relief.
Wow.
The wow is real.
United Healthcare knows you've got your whole life ahead of you.
Show me where they are.
It's nice to know you're free to focus on what matters. With reliable Medicare coverage from United Healthcare.
You know, we're not so different from plants, are we, Ryan?
Plants need food like people need food.
Like this really good organic pet food from Miracle Grow. These peppers look angry, Ryan. Eat them, don't just stand there. Oh, what is that musty smell?
Oh, damn.
Damn. Oh, damn.
Hey, language. Damper traps excess moisture to eliminate musty smells. Get rid of the damn with Damn Rid.
All right, get 'em, hon.
Take back your DirecTV pigeons and your overpriced satellite TV.
In my day, you had to walk uphill both ways to save money.
Sounds like a lot of hills back then. Now you could just upgrade a dish and save $30 a month and get 3 months free.
3 months free.
3 months free.
Makes that to me.
Upgrade your dish. Save up to $30 a month and now get 3 months free.
At Fisher Investments, we may look like other money managers, but we're different.
How so?
We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in our clients' best interest. So we don't sell any commission-based products.
Then how do you make money?
We have a simple management fee, structured so we do better when our clients do better.
The clients really come first then, huh?
Yes, we make them a top priority by getting to know their finances, family, health, lifestyle, and more.
Wow. Maybe we are different.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different.
Still have moderate to severe ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease symptoms after taking a medication like Humira or Remicade? Put them in check with Rinvoq, a once-daily pill.
When symptoms try to take control, I got rapid relief with Rinvoq. Check.
When flares try to slow me down, I got lasting remission with Rinvoq. Check. And mentally in remission, even at nearly 2 years.
And Rinvoq helps visibly reduce damage of the intestinal lining.
Not doing that.
Rapid symptom relief, lasting remission.
And visibly reduce damage. Check.
Rinvoq can lower ability to fight infections. Before treatment, test for TB and do blood work. Serious infections, blood clots, some fatal. Cancers including lymphoma and skin, serious allergic reactions, GI tears, death, heart attack, and stroke occurred. See the event risk increases in age 50 plus with a heart disease risk factor. Tell your doctor if you've had these events, infection, Hep B or C, smoked, are pregnant or planning. Don't take if allergic or have an infection.
Put UC Crohn's in check and keep them there with Rinvoq.
Ask your gastroenterologist about Rinvoq.
It's the Sleep Number Everything Smart Bed Sale. Save on everything cooling, ache relief, and more. Every smart bed and base are on sale during our Memorial Day event, up to 50% off. Plus free premium delivery when you add an adjustable base, only in Sleep Number.
This is Buick. Now. Buick. Exceptional by design.
Get 0.9% APR on these Buick models. Plus, current eligible non-payment. Get up to $3,000 allowance on Encore GX. When you spend less with Straight Talk and get a free 5G phone with real unlimited data, you can get more moments to yourself by getting something for them. Get a free 5G phone on us, on America's most reliable 5G network. Find us at Walmart and StraightTalk.com.
Whenever heartburn strikes, get fast relief with Tums. It's time to love food back.
Also try new Tums Gummy Bites.
George Clooney in One Last Good Night and Good Luck by June 7th on CNN. Closed captioning brought to you by Rue La La. Iconic brands up to 70% off retail at RueLaLa.com.
At Rue La La, you never pay full price. Seize the deals or top moves before they're gone. Shop RueLaLa.com today. And let's get you up to date on the breaking news here in Washington. 2 staffers at the Israeli embassy have been shot and killed near the Capitol Jewish Museum. Police say a suspect who chanted "Free, Free Palestine" after the shooting is now in custody. The Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Says the victims were a young couple. President Trump posted his condolences to the victims' families on social media. He says the killings are obviously based on anti-Semitism, which must end now. CNN's Gabe Cohen joins me now on the phone. Gabe, we are without a doubt going to spend a lot of time discussing Elias Rodriguez. This is the named suspect, his motives, his background, how he did what he did. But I know you were watching that press conference too. Let's talk about the 2 victims and what the Israeli ambassador told us about them. They were a couple that was set to get engaged.
Yeah, and MJ, I'll tell you about that in a moment. I do want to mention something about that 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez, who is the lone suspect in this shooting from Chicago, Illinois. We heard during the press conference that it was seen pacing back and forth outside of the museum just before the shooting, and just moments later approached a group of 4 people who were leaving the museum and then fired those shots, killed a man and woman, a soon-to-be engaged couple, as you mentioned, then entered the museum and was detained. Well, in the last few minutes, we've gotten an eyewitness testimony that's telling our CNN team that the shooter and the suspect in this case pretended to be a witness in those minutes after the shooting, after he entered the museum, and he actually waited for police to arrive for more than 10 minutes before eventually claiming that he had committed the shooting. We know that this witness at the scene is telling us that people inside the museum heard shots. Then they saw a man come running into the center. This person said security guards offered the man water. They were trying to comfort him. He was acting a bit erratic. They figured he had witnessed the shooting. It wasn't until minutes later when police arrived. And by the way, according to this witness, that man actually asked security to call the police. And when those officers arrived, about 10 minutes later, the man took accountability for the shooting and said that he had done it and that he had done it for Gaza. And as the police chief mentioned, he later said, "Free Palestine, free, free Palestine." So those are obviously very profound details that are coming out now in this early hour of the morning. And you also asked about this couple because we heard the Israeli ambassador to the U.S. Talk about them. They were employees of the Israeli embassy, a couple that was soon to be engaged. They expected that the man had bought a ring and was going to propose in Jerusalem in the next week or so. So it really is this tragic story. And obviously, there are a lot of investigative strands and details that still need to come out here. But I was really struck in that press conference listening to the tone and the language of D.C.'s mayor and police chief, because this is a city and an administration that obviously deals with a lot of contentious political issues, a lot of protests, and they tend to be very careful about their language, to not speak too quickly, not get ahead of the actual facts of the case. And yet we heard the mayor right at the start of the press conference come out and say that this was going to be an incident that would frighten people in the nation's capital and across the country. And she was quick to say that this city is not going to tolerate violence or hate or acts of terror or anti-Semitism. Those were specific words that she used that spoke to the early details in this case. And we know that the FBI is looking into potential ties to terrorism and a hate crime. But of course, MJ, we will see what comes out of that investigation in these coming days.
All right, thank you, Gabe Cohen.
understand the world, you need the truth. This is the largest measles outbreak in 30 years. It's why we follow the facts wherever they lead. The inside story. Their lives now are forever changed.
President Trump is serious about the threats that he's making.
From an outside perspective, we follow what matters to you, approaching a path to the truth and better understanding our world. When you're the leader, that's the political restoration. How do you make like it never even happened? Whatever comes your way, there's a growth. Serve growth. Like it never even happened. Little things. Little things that add up to something big. Tell AI, intelligence.
Alright, I'm going to bed. I am tired.
Etsy is the place to find Father's Day gifts, like original baseball hats by Blair, under $50. Personalized luggage tags under $25, or handmade outdoor gear under $200. Your dad's wants to come. Get a gift that gets him. Etsy has it.
This is our call to inaction. To answer the call of the recliner.
We're getting takeout because we've been out all day long.
It's the Lazy Boy Memorial Day sale. Great deals on your new favorite lazy spots. Lazy Boy. Long live the lazy.
I'm a photographer and small business owner. Every day I use American technology and artificial intelligence to run my business and edit photos. American innovation is essential to small businesses like mine. That's why I'm proud the U.S. leads the world in developing open source AI solutions. This game-changing technology is making us smarter and more efficient. American innovation is supporting millions of jobs and powering our economy. Our leaders in Washington must protect our competitive edge.
Believe me, when it comes to investing, you'll love Carl's Way. Take a lunch here, please. But there's a Carl's Way is the best way.
Is it? At Schwab, how I choose to invest is up to me.
Exactly. I can invest and trade on my own.
Yes, and I let them manage some investments for me too.
Alright, I'm going to bed. I'm tired.
I'll get out there.
You alright? Calm down.
Schwab. Schwab. Modern approach to wealth management. Enjoy the overwhelming relief after Miralax helps you go. Miralax works naturally.
But I will see y'all tomorrow. Good night.